Welcome to my art journal flip through. I do monthly journals, and this is my 71st monthly journal. So this is the beginning, this is the end of 6 years of journal making. This is my January 23. I just completed it a couple days ago, and today is actually the first week of January, so I already have some writing in it. But I wanted to start by telling you this is what's called a disc-bound journal. And I like disc bounds because they allow me to, if I want to, take a page out. You can see the way the spine is created and then pop them back in. So they're a little bit like spiral, but they allow you to create more of the journal that you want and put things in it the way you want. This is a 9 by, I think it's 11.5, and this is a happy planner, and I'll give you the details down below. But I wanted to walk you through what I do with a monthly planner. I've got a list of things that I use in this particular journal, starting with morning pages, which if you've never heard of that, that is something Julia Camera in The Artist's Way promotes. And I've been writing my daily pages, 3 pages a day, for about 6 years. So about when I started this. But this also contains a lot of other things. It's kind of my grocery list, brainstorming planner. There's parts of it that are a bullet journal. I keep flyers in here of workshops that I'm presenting. I have notes on classes or a video that I'm studying. I have lots of ephemera like tea bags and movie tickets and grandkids' spelling lists and even a few of my speeding tickets. It's got a lot of historical documentation as well. So if I'm trying to keep track of when someone made a call or when I did something, I may put things in there. It also has drafts of speeches that I've made or articles I'm writing. I draft images of bookshelves that I'm making, and I put those in here. It's got family scrapbook pages, phone messages, a lot of my favorite quotes, to-do lists, and calendars. So a wide variety of things. But my all-time favorite is the part of the journal that I call I'm writing so I don't kill anyone journal. And it's an ability when you're incredibly stressed to journal and get out what's going on instead of having to worry about going to jail for being that angry. So let's take a look at this and see what you think. This particular notebook is about $18, and a lot of them have decorations and tabs and things. You'll see I always start out with a calendar, and although my calendar changes throughout the month, I want to get initially the beginning of the month important details. So it's color-coded, and I keep track of some of my more important details. You'll notice in the journal, I don't do heavy art because this is a planner writing book. But I want enough that it creates a sense of interest. I want it to be something tactile, something that I can enjoy. So you'll see most of the pages have sparse amounts of art on them so that I can focus on the writing and the recording that I do. I'll take magazine articles that I've clipped out. Here's a little tea bag with a quote about strong women. Here was some brainstorming I did. And then each page subsequently has different kinds of things on it. I worked in a Franklin planner for many, many years, and so I follow the bubbles of to-do lists. I teach a Sunday school class, so I keep track of who's in my Sunday school class. And then these couple pages were some notes I took from a class. You'll notice again, I do little tiny things. For many years, I just wrote in a plain journal, and I realized I needed a little more activity, a little more interest. And so, for example, this, I just used a regular old paper punch and cut out some snowflakes on cardstock. And you'll see when my morning pages go, they're usually 3 pages right in a row. And so sometimes they get separated from the rest of it. But you can see little punches. This is kind of a fun thing to do. It creates a lot of interest, but it's a very simple thing. This is a piece of cardstock, or pardon me, a piece of scrapbook paper. I cut it into 3 strips, ripped it down the middle. So I've got edges, I've got some interest, but you can still see my focus is on my writing. Some little snowmen. These were scraps of paper I added snowflakes to. I do calendars of my day. I'm planning things all the time. Grocery lists. I love the little cards that come with the scrapbook paper packets. I love to cut those out because they're kind of little and they don't take too much. This one I had put the word grace and I'd put the snowflakes, and later I was thinking about meditating, so I added a photograph. And you'll see I color code a lot to keep track of things that are important. These are notes from a class I took, and you'll see just a little hint of embossing paper that I colored over. I just will smudge it with like a distress oxide to give it just a little more interest. I did a die cut punch on the deer to match up with something all is calm and bright. This is kind of a fun thing I enjoy too. These were actually 1 page of cardstock. I ripped it down the middle and I put one on alternate pages, and then I just simply took one of my old stencils and I put some different kinds of inks on it to make it color coded. So I did it on this page and then again on that page, the second page. This is more just little stencils that I've done. This is tissue paper that I've collected, that I've stamped on, and I'm starting to practice the concept of mandalas. I'm not good at it yet, but you can see some of the art that I'm starting to do comes into play. This is a workshop on mixed media journaling I'm going to be doing in the future, so I glued that in once I got the promotional information. I keep little things like these are my prayer cards, so if I'm praying for someone, I can do that. These were actually the notes for this video. I like to put words, phrases, different kinds of things like that. A newsletter that I just printed out. This is a bill for a spiritual retreat I'm taking tomorrow. A lot of times I like to highlight the beginning of the month because I get a lot of things going in them. This is jelly plate. You can see I was playing with it and I just pull out all of my papers. The way I typically do it is I get together all of my materials and I start putting them together. Scrapbook papers, papers from different collections of tissue paper, cardstock, things I've stenciled, jelly plate papers, and then lots and lots of scraps of paper, because you can see I want little things here. I use a lot of distress oxide, as I said. I have a set of watercolor markers. I use a lot of gelatos because they're a really good way to get some color on the page without saturating the paper and ruining it. And some inks won't work well on gelatos, but sometimes I like to just have a colored page to write on. This was a die cut from my Big Shot that I used. More things from my cardstock. This was one of my favorite scrapbook papers. So you see I try and save every little piece to do something fun with it. This will be a good place to put some notes. And again, notice it's very minimal, the amount of art that I put on, just enough to create interest. This was a doily. I just rubbed an ink pad over it to give it some color and glued, cut it in half so hardly takes any material at all. Do a lot of die cutting with words and things like that. And there's lots of quotes in scrapbook paper pads that you can use to play with. I loved this one. This was a big, huge 12 by 12 scrapbook page. I cut it down to size, and I was going to try and put it on one page, and I thought, no, I want to use it. And if you'll notice, this is probably too dark to write on, but I'm going to be able to write all around here, and I don't care that it's going from the paper, the two kinds of paper, because it's just for me. But this is kind of a fun, different focal point than what I usually have. Imagine. This was a new one I tried. I used 2 pieces of scrapbook paper, so I'll journal here, and then when I get done, I'll have to pull it out because I can't write over the discs very well, and then I'll journal across the whole page. And again, I'll have a big chunk of writing, but I'll have some visual interest. I thought that was fun. And then you always want good seams when you're doing art journaling. So this was another piece of scrapbook paper that I folded over, glued this to it, so it's a solid second page. And again, I'll be able to journal on that as well. I thought this was kind of fun just to leave the little tips. Again, a lighter color. I'll have to use a black ink on this one to show through, but I thought that would be fun to journal right across the top of that. And I love little pockets. So I use things like my little punches to cut out this little tiny, I don't know if you can see it or not, little tiny edges. Make a little pocket, and then I can put notes or cards or different things that I enjoy. I use pockets for all kinds of things. When my mom died, I made a giant clear pocket just with some like cellophane type stuff, and I actually put her obituary in it because I didn't want to cut it up or glue it. Here's an example of how I use my gelato, and this was some of that wonderful scrapbook paper there. This is some of my painting papers that I've used. So I took just a plain old tab, put some color inside it, and I'll be able to journal on these pages, both sides, and put it back in. So again, it's another way to add a little interest to my writing. This is some edging on one of my cardstock packets I got. It's fun to try not only cutting out the snowflake, but the shape that's left on the paper is kind of fun too. And I love the textures of things. So this is actually some flannel that I loved, and I actually stuck it to the back of a page, and you'll see this is one of my plastic tabs. So I don't have to glue, which would ruin the texture, but I can use it as a pocket or just touch it or use it for a variety of different kinds of things. Here's another example of the scrapbook paper itself was quite a bit larger, but I love the interest. So I'll be able to journal up here, but I'll still have space, and I'll have room to put some notes. Here's another paper doily that I rubbed ink pads over, put a little snowflake on it. This was another, I think it was a distress ink where I used just a stencil, and then I just got some pads that kind of matched up. So again, I'll write right over the top of this, and it'll still be really pretty to look at. This was a die cut. It was actually a frame about that big, and I cut all the piece off. I say I didn't get it glued down very well. I have to do it some more, but I thought that created some special interest with the framing. This was something I've never done before, but I thought it was fun. I ripped a page in half. You can see where I cut it, but it was a little too bland, and I thought, well, what if I just tear it out? So I ripped each of the sides into several pieces and glued them down so you could see the edging. So you still see what the image is, and again, I'll write right over the top of all this, but I don't know, it might bump on my pen a little bit, but I thought that looked like something fun to try. This is just plain stenciling. Some more embossed paper that I covered. And here I used some different colors embossing just to give it some interest. And then I keep track of a lot of things, meetings I go to. So I put things in little pouches in the back. I usually keep a calendar, a weekly calendar, and I do what's called Hour Power, or my practice in the course of a day, and I try and keep track if I've done that. I usually keep a long-running to-do list. This is a class I've started taking, so I'll put things in those. And then these, I will just transfer over to the next journal next month. So that's my monthly journal. So it'll take me about another 3 weeks, and then that'll be full. And as you can imagine, it's not too thick now, but you can imagine it'll be popping out when it's all done. When I get done with a month, then I usually start making bookmarks. I like to have a bookmark for each month. And you'll notice, if you followed through the video, you'll see all the little scraps. I took words like love and so joyful, but these are all leftovers. So then I have that. And then I also have some other examples. This is something I used in previous journals. And on this one, I can just cut it out, maybe make 3 or 4 different. I like to use ribbon, but this will make several ones. Here's another background that I could use if I wanted to. And I love to use like old photographs and things like that too. The last thing I do is, there's no place to put pens, and I'm perpetually losing a pen. From Tool, I bought a pen pouch so I can keep track of my pens and markers. I want to thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe, check the like, and click the bell to hear about my new ones coming through.